choose to size me up and you're bound to lose. You want to walk in my shoes and I guaranteed you'll get lost because you ain't like me. You won't win at all costs. This is Mark Bell from supertraining.tv, Super Training Gym, the strongest gym in the West, answering more questions today for the Power Project, brought to you by HowMuchYouBench.net, the Slingshot, and the only strength magazine in the world, thepowermagazine.com. This video article is for bodybuilding.com. And today we are going to talk about the bench press. Due to the fact that I have a massive bench press, I figured I could shed some light on this topic as I get many questions about the bench press. And one question I get quite often, trying to cover up my eyebrow cleavage, which is better than a unibrow, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of self-conscious about it, so please don't mention it in the video comments. Anyway, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the bench press today, and going to talk about some of the common cues that I hear that are somewhat false in some ways. It's not necessarily just false information, but it's information that unfortunately doesn't apply to all. There's people in this world, believe it or not, there's people in this world that are fat. And some of these fat people gravitate towards powerlifting and strength sports such as shot put, discus, powerlifting, weightlifting, and so on. So sometimes the information that you get is coming from a big fat guy, a guy that is round, a guy that is rotund, a guy that is squatty. And when you're getting information from these individuals, even though they mean well and they're trying to coach you the best way that they know how to coach, they're giving you cues that apply to themselves and not necessarily to everybody else. So one of the cues that I hear commonly is to tuck the elbows. Now, tucking the elbows is good, I will say that, but it can be overdone. You can tuck the elbows too much. Another cue that I hear, and we'll get a little bit more to the elbows in a second. Another cue that I hear commonly is to bench press in a straight line. So in other words, you're going to touch here, right about the nipples, which is also false information, but we'll get to that in a second. Touch right about the nipple area, and then you're going to just press completely straight up rather than pushing back in an arc. And that is also some false information. So when somebody has a shorter stroke in their bench press, when somebody has a big arch, and when somebody has a big belly, some of these things can contribute to them giving you information that is misleading to the masses, to the people that are jacked and tan, to the people that are ripped, tan, and vascular, to the people that are skinny, to the ladies out there who are trying to bench press and try to improve their bench press, and they don't have 34 triple Ds kicking to be able to have a short range of motion. So when I see a bench press going on and I hear these cues, it aggravates me to hell because I know that this information is false for these individuals. Now, if you want to start to apply everything to the masses, some things that are very common in the bench press or things that should be common to everybody in the bench press, let's go over that right now. First thing you want to do when you do a bench press is you always want to grab the barbell evenly. This seems like a very simple thing, but oftentimes when people start to set up and they wiggle around, they shimmy around a little bit, they oftentimes will grab the bar with slightly uneven grip. So use the power rings. The power rings are a little engraved ring on there. It's about yay big, something like that, and it's on the bar. Use the power ring or use the smooth part of the bar where there's no knurling and go thumb away from the smooth part, and that should give you a decent grip. That'll be a fairly close grip, but so what? You'll work your triceps a little bit more. Standard grip on a bench press is to usually have your pinky on the power ring or to have your ring finger on the power ring. Power lifters, people that are trying to move the most amount of weight, will try to get their grip out as wide as possible, again, to shorten the range of motion. So you're starting to hear a common theme: range of motion. Shortening the range of motion can be crucial, but it is not critical. And nothing matters more in lifting weights than positioning and being in a good position and remaining in a good position throughout the entire lift. So you'll hear people say all these different things about how you should lift, how you should get this really crazy tight arch in a squat, or you should arch up real hard in a deadlift, and these different things. All those things are great if they can be maintained and managed throughout the entire range of motion. Once you are under load, under a heavy weight, it is very difficult to manage those arches and those things, and that's why we try to train some of those things out of people. So first things first, grab the bar the right way. Second thing is squeeze the damn bar hard. You want to squeeze the bar hard. You want to flex that forearm. You want to flex your forearm because you want to get your whole arm activated. If you were to shake somebody's hand as hard as you possibly could, then you're going to notice that everything tenses up all the way from your neck, all the way into your shoulder, all the way into your bicep. All that stuff is transferring over, so squeeze the barbell hard. Another thing that squeezing the barbell hard will do, will help alleviate some pain and tendonitis and stuff like that in the elbow. Not going to completely alleviate it, but it can help. Sounds weird, but trust me on that. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start to worry about the positioning of our feet. I like to lock down the lower body first and then adjust the upper body second. The reason for that is you got to keep your lower body, your feet, planted while you're squeamishly trying to finagle your upper body into the correct position. So get your feet set whatever way they need to be set. Try to make sure your feet aren't pointed too far outward. I see that commonly on the bench press. It's okay to have them torqued out a little bit, but let's not have them torqued out so much that we lose all tension through the hips. We want torque, we want torsion, and we want lots of it. So get your feet set. Normally the feet go underneath the knees. Normally your feet are going to line up so they're underneath your knees. Your toe is going to be under your knee bone, your kneecap. That's usually a good place. You want to try to drive your stomach upward, and you want to try to flex and drive your heel down towards the ground. When you're doing this, this is going to make your hips higher than where your knee is. This is going to create stabilization. You are going to become more stable. This is a bench press stance that we're working on getting into. The next thing that we do after we have the legs set is we're going to set the upper body. It's common to set the upper body with an underhand grip, grabbing inside the knurling of the bar, the smooth part of the bar, with both hands firmly, curling the body upward, keeping the shoulder blades down and back, not just back, but down and back, okay? And to simplify that even further, just bring your damn chest up. Pull your chest up as hard as you can. So you're trying to, it's kind of hard for me to be a one-man crew here all the time, make you dizzy, but you're just trying to pull your chesticles up in the air. See those large breasts there? Am I really feeling myself up on camera? I think I just did. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, so rather than being like this, we're trying to be like this. Pull your chest up in the air. Your sternum is up in the air. And that's where it's going to remain. We got to keep positioning. We got to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. So keep that chest up. We're going to bring the barbell. When we start to come downward, we're going to take the weight out. Hopefully you have somebody to lift off for you, because you don't want to be lifting off and unwinding yourself and screwing yourself up. So don't do this stuff here. Have somebody unrack the weight, especially once it gets over like 60%. A pair of wrist wraps would be wise. You can buy the slingshot wrist wraps, which are sold on bodybuilding.com. And we'll get to a slingshot in just a second, but take those weights out. Have somebody hand those weights out to you. Learn, it's going to take some time, learn to bring the weights out over your body, not over your chin or your nose. You don't want to have the weights out here, because then you're going to be bench pressing too much like this. Okay? Bring the weights at least down towards your chin, if not towards the upper pecs. You want to take the weight out over the largest part of your body, which is going to be your sternum, approximately. May vary for each person, but your sternum is going to be the biggest part of your upper body. We're going to do from here, we're going to, remember, we're squeezing the barbell. we're going to slightly bring the elbows inward, because if we don't bring the elbows in, then we can't really get them back out all that well. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But we're going to bring the weights down. We're going to tuck the elbows in. We're going to keep the chest up. We want your wrist and the bar. You want your wrist, your elbow, and the barbell to all be in alignment. Wrist, elbow, and the bar to all be in alignment, or at least really close to that. So everything should be in alignment. You got your elbow here, your wrist is here, and the barbell will be running through your fingers here. Everything's in alignment. We're going to bring it just slightly below the nippleage line, the breasticles, as I like to call them. And we're going to touch on the sternum. Some people like to be a little bit higher. That's okay, but make sure you're not going way out here. What happens when we bench press out here is that we get stuck out here because we are exposed. We are overexposed. And you don't want that overexposure. You don't want full frontal going on the bench press. What we're trying to avoid, we want to try to get, that is the middle finger, sorry about that. We want to try to get the forearm, even for your smaller folks out there, we're going to try to get the forearm to touch the bicep, and for the tricep to touch the lat back here. And in order to do that, the elbows have to come in slightly, and we have to be in here. If we're out here, we're not doing it. Eric Spoto, one of the best bench pressers of all time, came to Super Training Gym, benched 635 for 1.5 reps, needed help a little bit on the second rep to just lock it out a tiny bit. I believe he got a little bit of a bump, or maybe he even got it himself. But the point is, barely did 635 for 2 reps, which is a huge amount of weight, but came back about 1.5 years later and broke the all-time world record by bench pressing 722 pounds. Unbelievable. So the point is if it can work for him, it can work for anybody. But that nearly put on about, I would just say, at least 60 pounds onto his bench press. Just by having the proper form. Stan Efferding missed a 600-pound bench press. He missed a 585 bench press in my gym one time, and then came back and in a meet benched 585. He actually missed a 600-pound bench press in the last meet that he did, where he totaled 2303. It was because his elbows were out too much. He took his elbows back in on his third attempt, drove them out as he came up, and locked that baby out. To get 600 pounds and just line him up for a 2303 total. So the elbows have to come inward a little bit, but only to be brought back out again. So you hear people talk about elbow flare. Well, I want to flare my elbows, but I want to tuck them, and as I'm coming up, I want to drive them out and up, out and up. Not too much, not way out here. You don't want them getting too far away from your body because we need that contact, right? And we don't want to be exposed out here too much. But we're going to bring the weights down in here, and we're going to press up. We're going to drive the elbow up and out and lock it out, and the weights are going to be locked out about over the chin or over the nose. So it is going to be an arc. It's going to come from down here to being about here, or maybe even upper pec. Each person is going to be a little different due to arm length. But you have to bench press. The bar has to travel in a little bit of an arc. It cannot only travel in a straight line unless you're super duper fat and unless you're bench pressing in a bench shirt. So those are some different things for some different folks. But for the majority of you out there, try some of these tips that I just said. Remember, tuck that elbow in as you're coming down. For those of you that are flexible, be careful that your elbow's not in too far and you're not doing this weird pterodactyl move down here. Okay? Bring the elbow in close to your body, but not too crazy. As you press up, as soon as you start to press up, drive the elbow out and up, and lock that weight out strong, and make sure you're bench pressing in a slight arch, or arc, I should say. That's it from bodybuilding.com and supertraining.tv. Strength is never a weakness, and I'll catch you later.